Hey there, welcome back to Reddit XO, the best channel for Reddit cheating stories. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification for more stories like these. I 32 male am in love with my former sister-in-law 27 female. I'm finally at a point where I can't stand this anymore. I've been in love with this woman for a very long time, maybe a couple of years at this point, and I'm not sure if I should just kill it or attempt to make something with her. I met my ex-wife, her sister, when I was 23 years old, and the relationship developed very quickly, and by 26 I had my son and daughter and had gotten married. However, within months of being married, my ex-wife had an affair, but worse than that, the man she cheated with had gotten her into heroin. After confronting her on this, she said she was going to get help, but instead she left in the night. I haven't heard from her in 4 years, and last I've heard she's still with that guy and are homeless in Las Vegas. Not sure how true that is, but being focused on holding it together for the kids, I really don't have the time to chase her down, nor do I want to after what she pulled. I ended up getting a divorce in absentia. I did, however, maintain a very positive relationship with my in-laws after the fact. Every other weekend my kids stay over with their grandparents on that side, and they pretty much treat me like a son still. I still go to parties at Christmas, and am reasonably liked by the family. Nobody talks about my ex anymore, mainly to not worry my kids. My oldest, my son, is very hurt by his mother leaving. He's 9 now, and I had to get therapy for him after he told me he hoped his mother was dead. She had been getting verbally abusive toward the end, which was when he was around 5 or 6 anyhow. In the year following my ex leaving, her sister and her boyfriend had started coming around a lot to see the kids. They knew I worked a lot and would babysit and call it practice, as they wanted to have children of their own. My kids loved them and were spoiled by them, which I didn't mind, because we all needed a little positivity. They got married and were very in love. However, her husband was killed in a workplace accident shortly after the birth of their daughter. It has been extremely rough and painful for everyone involved, as one can imagine. I followed my Sil's example and began to take her daughter to give her time to herself if things got too hard to deal with or she needed alone time. She's been in grief counseling for a few years, but she still wears her ring and has told me she can't ever imagine dating again. I talk to her about him frequently, and she's gotten to a better place, but she's still very much in love with him. I can't imagine that sort of pain. Over the last 2 years, we've been a more constant figure in each other's lives. My kids love their aunt, and I have her over for dinner a couple times a week. My daughter and her daughter have become close and love being around each other, so they have sleepovers. I've moved on from my ex by this, but the idea of dating possibly someone dangerous as their mother has kept me out of the dating scene. I don't know when it happened, but slowly I began to get soft on my SIL. She's a great mom for what she's had happened to her. She's one of the sweetest people I know, and her sense of humor always leaves me laughing and happy. Then I started realizing that I'm physically attracted to her. I've always felt kind guilty about it because her late husband was a good friend, and since she's obviously is still grieving, so I've kept it to myself. Since COVID started, we've been together a bit more because social distancing has had us lose contact with most other people. Nothing romantic has ever been discussed, and I try not to flirt, but last week it was very late, and after the kids went to bed I made us a few drinks. Not enough to get drunk, but she decided she'd rather spend the night, so I took my couch. I woke up to breakfast this morning, and the 4 of us felt like the sort of family I've always wanted. She even kissed my forehead, which is not something she normally does. I still didn't say anything, but after she left, I found my son quietly playing with his toys in his room. He looked upset, so I asked him if he was all right. He tells me point blank in the way only a kid can that he wishes Sil was his mother. I sat down with him and asked him why he thought that way, and he gave a whole bunch of reasons for being nice to him, that she never yells about anything. He likes seeing her at his grandparents', and she draws pictures with him, which I didn't know they did. By the end of it, my heart, that is already melting for this woman, even more wound up. When visiting, dropping them off with their grandparents, I tried to breach the subject with her folks to kind of feel around how people would see. I made a joke about she and I acting like a married couple sometimes, and they didn't laugh and were kind of standoffish. Friendly, but either they know something or they disapprove. It's getting too hard for me to ignore or pretend it's not getting to me. I'm in love with her. Either I've got to kill it and find some way not to think of her, or I have to find some sort of way to navigate through this situation and tell her everything. If anybody out there has any insight on how to approach a widow, especially one who was married to a friend, With this sort of intention, I could really use your help. Story 2. I think I cheated. My ex-BF and I have been trying to work on things. Last we talked, I told him I didn't want to get reattached if he couldn't accept all the ways he hurt me. He didn't see the messages the night I'm going to talk about. That night my friend had a housewarming party for her new place. We kept it small with just 2 of her friends that I've only met one other time. Well, we all got really drunk and high. At the end of the night, one guy left who only had a beer, but this other guy was drunk and I didn't want him to drive drunk. I was also worried about him losing his license. Looking back, I should have never cared. So I said he could taxi or sleep on one of the couches and I'd sleep on another. Well, at some point I was laying on the floor watching a movie trying to come down, and he tried making a move on me. Immediately got up and moved and told him no, I'm working on things with my ex. My friend witnessed this before she went to bed. Started to drink more because I was coming down from a high, so it was helping. I didn't think he'd try again because I already told him my situation with my ex, so I let my guard down and drank more. Later on he kept on trying. I kept saying no multiple more times. But then I was on the couch watching a movie and he was bending down near the couch and moved in to kiss me. Suddenly we're kissing and I didn't push him away fast enough. My brain honestly wasn't functioning at this point. We kissed for a bit and I pulled him away. He said he couldn't get hard BC, he was too drunk. I told him again I didn't want to and to stop. He then told me that he would go get a pill and come back. I said not to bother coming back. Well, he did anyways. I told him we weren't having sex, and he tried to make me feel bad because he had already taken the pill. But I told him that I had already told him I didn't want to. I fell asleep on the couch, and I woke up to him naked and taking off my clothes. He then inserted into me for 3-4 minutes before I realized what was happening and pushed him off. I was so shocked that I don't even remember what happened next. Just that he went to sleep and I haven't been able to sleep okay for days. I think I cheated because I put myself in a terrible position by allowing him to spend the night, therefore putting myself in a bad position. I allowed him to make out with me. I do believe I was coerced and my multiple attempts to say no were ignored and I just gave in. But that's the problem, I gave in. And because I let him do that, he just got more and more pushy. I wish I stood up for myself more. But I know that I cheated the second I let him make out with me. Update. Firstly, thank you all for your honest feedback and opinions. I appreciate the good, the bad, all of it. It has helped me understand all sides of this situation. I am working on forgiving myself and dealing with the shame of putting myself in a horrible position. I will be going to an AA meeting soon to deal with why I drink, knowing that nothing good ever comes from it. I have social anxiety, so I think that plays a huge role, but nonetheless alcohol has damaged me in way too many ways, yet I still can't stop. I will also never ever give a crap about other people in situations that could put me in a terrible place. It's just not worth it. I'm still scared to go to the police, but for now, I'm going to the hospital for an STD check, and I'll use what I talked to the doctor about as proof if I need to. I'm still worried about my ex, but I know that he deserves to know. I will tell him, but it's all a lot to handle right now, so I'm giving myself some time on that aspect. But I will tell him. Anyways, thanks again, and I'll update again when I have more to say. Update 1. So, it's been a little over 2 weeks now. In that time, I have gone to the hospital and got checked for STDs. I'm still waiting on the results from that. I'm not pregnant, though, so that's good. I've decided not to press charges on the guy, but I do have proof with the hospital in case anything ever happens that I need to in the future. I did not press charges because admittedly I want to move on and never think about it again until I can get help through therapy, when I can afford it, and because he begged me not to. He apologized profusely and told me he would also quit drinking, and that the career he built up would be ruined. He told me he'd always be smarter in the future and would ask for consent moving forward. And like I said, selfishly, I just want to heal and move on. I haven't spoken to the man in a week and plan on never having to again. As for the ex-BF, I haven't told him. I probably won't either for a long time. I understand I'll be judged for that. I have had a hard time recognizing myself in the mirror over the last few weeks, and I have to be able to understand what happened to me before I can be there for him. I can't have him look at me the way I've been looking at myself lately. I need to find my own courage before I can be there for him the way he'll need me to be. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but if I have any chance of explaining and helping him understand, I have to be strong for us both. I don't have that yet. We are still working on the things that caused the breakup in the first place, and when he gets frustrated, and quickly, He tends to make a big scene in front of his roommates, so I also have to figure out where I tell him that I feel comfortable. I don't know if we're going to make it through the issues we had before this happened, but if we do, I will tell him. Also, I have felt like drinking every day after this happened, but I haven't. I went to go to AA and called around, but there aren't any locally that are opened, so maybe I'll look online. The guilt is still eating me up inside, and I might consider just breaking up for good. Part of me hurts that I feel like I can't trust him to talk about this, but the other part of me understands that he has every right to be upset and mad that I put myself in that situation, which again I totally understand. Lastly, the kiss. I've been going over the night as I remember it. And yes, there are 3 sides to every story. Mine, his, and the truth. But from what I recall, I allowed the kissing, therefore I cheated. I own up to that. I felt preyed upon and threatened, but I could have kicked him off me like I did later that night but didn't. I don't know why I didn't, but I still haven't been able to understand why I shrank in that moment. I know I wasn't turned on or attracted to him. I really don't know what happened, but nonetheless nothing justifies it. I'll have to bring that up in therapy one day when I can anyways. That's it. Thank guys.